Alright, today we're taking C notes over the background for Hamlet, Act 1, and all of Act 1. So for the background, Hamlet is based on this 13th century legend, and you know that Shakespeare didn't have any original plays except for his last play, The Tempest. So all of his plays were based on stories that people were already familiar with, and the death of King Hamlet of Denmark and his son is a very famous story that people already knew. The performance of this is dated between 1599 and 1602 for the first performance, because 1599 1599 is the latest date for Julius Caesar to be performed, the one you read sophomore year. And because Hamlet references Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, we know that Hamlet had to come after it. This is arguably Shakespeare's most famous play. It's been adapted and retold and reperformed thousands of times in hundreds of countries, and actors love to do Shakespeare's Hamlet because it's so enduring and so incredible. Alright, so let's go on to Act 1, and in these notes I have next to it each new scene, Act 1, and then little scene 1. So the setting is Elsinore Castle in Denmark, and here we have a map of where that will be. So we have Africa down here, Asia of course, and then like Spain, England, Scandinavia, and Denmark is right here. This little peninsula has another part over here connected to Scandinavia. It's very cold, and yeah. Alright, so here's the story. King Hamlet of Denmark has recently died suddenly of a seemingly natural death. He was in very good health, and all of a sudden, boom, he's dead. And I have seemingly underlined because throughout the play, there's going to be this motif of seeming, where people are acting like one thing, but are really something else. So we have a new king, King Claudius, which is King Hamlet's younger brother, because the original king has died. And so let's look at this family tree right here. We have King Hamlet, who's married to Queen Gertrude, and they have a son, Prince Hamlet. So don't be confused with the two Hamlets. Then King Hamlet dies, so then King Claudius takes his place. Now the weird thing here is that King Claudius marries Queen Gertrude. He married his brother's wife. And so Prince Hamlet has his uncle now as his stepfather. Okay, so one more time in case people got lost. The original family tree looks like this. King Hamlet and King Claudius are brothers. King Hamlet is married to Queen Gertrude, and they have a son, Prince Hamlet. When King Hamlet dies, King Claudius becomes king, and he marries King Hamlet's widow. So the family tree now looks like this. You can imagine that makes Prince Hamlet pretty unhappy. Alright, and we'll get to there in a minute, but the watchmen at the beginning of the play are set outside the castle to guard against the invasion of Fortinbras from Norway. Norway and Denmark have a history of war. King Hamlet, the original king, had killed Fortinbras' father, and so Fortinbras is sort of seeking revenge. We don't see Fortinbras until the end of the play, but he is important to the overall action of the play. So these watchmen who are stationed outside have seen a ghost, but the ghost won't speak to them, and it's in the form of King Hamlet, the recently deceased King Hamlet. Horatio, who's Hamlet's closest friend, comes to the night watch to see the ghost for himself because he doesn't believe it exists. He believes in philosophy, in science, in concrete concepts, and has trouble believing that there could be a ghost, so he needs to see it for himself. So moving on to Act 1, Scene 2. It's the next morning, and King Claudius, newly crowned, explains his recent marriage to his brother's widow, Gertrude, shortly after his death. That's what we saw happen over here. Right? We had King Hamlet died, and King Claudius married his brother's widow. Okay, so this is where we get Hamlet in his first costume, and I'm going to move the screen up a little bit here. We get Hamlet in his first costume, which is mourning clothes. He's sad. He's wearing black out of sadness over his father's death. And he loved his father. King Hamlet was a great king. And Claudius, the new king, is very weak, and he desires Hamlet to stay in Elsinore and not go back to school in Germany at Wittenberg because two reasons. Hamlet is the next king in line, and so Hamlet needs to get trained up. And also, Claudius wants to keep an eye on Hamlet. It's just Claudius's nature to be suspicious. Here, after everyone has exited, we get Hamlet's first soliloquy. Remember that a soliloquy is when an actor has lines all by himself on the stage for the audience to hear. And here Hamlet wishes for death. He'll be doing that a lot. Hamlet's sort of depressed, and his main thing is like, oh, this sucks, oh, like all the time. Anyway, so in this speech, Hamlet compares Claudius to King Hamlet in the same way as Prince Hamlet would be compared to Hercules. Hamlet is not a weakling, but he's not this big, muscly, godlike creature. Just like Claudius is not big, muscly, and strong like King Hamlet. They're very different. Hamlet in this speech is also angry with his mother for so quickly remarrying someone so inferior to his father. At this point, Horatio and the watchmen come in to tell Hamlet about the ghost, and they want Hamlet to speak to it because it's Hamlet's father, they think, and since the ghost won't speak to them, maybe it'll speak to Hamlet. Then we kind of switch gears to Act 1, Scene 3. We meet Ophelia, Hamlet's love interest, and her brother Laertes and their father Polonius. Both men warn Ophelia of Hamlet trying to take her virginity, but at this point in the play, most scholars believe that Hamlet already has. And Ophelia is so in love with Hamlet, and it's too late. They're warning her too late. She and Hamlet have already done the deed. So then at this point, Laertes leaves to go back to school in France, and Polonius is furious that Ophelia has been seeing Hamlet and forbids her from seeing Hamlet again. They think that Hamlet cannot be sincere in his affections towards her because he's going to be king, and Ophelia is just a noble woman that they think he will have to marry for political reasons, won't be able to marry Ophelia, and so they say stop seeing him altogether. So we have another example of seeming. Ophelia is ordered to seem uninterested in Hamlet and reject his advances, reject his visits, send back his letters. It's very sad. Then in Act 1, Scene 4, Hamlet goes out with the watch and Horatio to see the ghost. Hamlet follows it when it shows up, and Horatio's like, no, don't follow it. But Hamlet goes anyway. In Act 1, Scene 5, Hamlet speaks to the ghost and learns that King Hamlet was murdered by Claudius. So the seemingly natural death that King Hamlet had was actually they call it an unnatural murder. The ghost advises Hamlet to leave Gertrude to heaven. She is unfaithful, or was unfaithful to King Hamlet, and the ghost says, let God deal with her. But he orders Hamlet to avenge the father's death and kill Claudius, and Hamlet says he will, which is pretty much the driving action for the whole rest of the play. The ghost seems to be Hamlet's father, but Horatio has concerns that this ghost might actually be some kind of demon sent by hell to trick Hamlet into whatever. And so we have to wait and see throughout the action of the play, is this ghost the real deal? What's going on here? Alright, so I'm going to stop it here before I go on to Act 2.